Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow-Driven VC podcast. What a conversation I am looking forward to having with the wonderful Christian Sauer here today, all the way from Berlin, both on Monday, but AM for Christian, PM for me. And currently in Berlin, but does reside in Mallorca. And we've just been having a fascinating, quick little chat pre. And I can't wait to get into some of the different conversations I'm sure we're going to talk around, Christian. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. So, Christian, I'm just going to quickly celebrate all your wonderful successes before we jump into it. But you're the founder of Tsunami, which is a new, I guess, what I'm calling a new world order borderless venture business or ecosystem, if you like. And I'm super excited to get into that with you. It's a tokenized venture ecosystem and a launch pad that builds teams and funds projects at the intersection of Web3 and AI. Your platform and programs, including Venturethon, connect global founders with co-founders, advisors, and decentralized funding, moving ideas to fully on-chain ventures via its Foundance stack and on-chain co-founder agreements. Tsunami's thesis or operandi is all around centers on a decentralized future, zero knowledge technologies, and the power of DAOs backing founders through, which is what we're going to talk a lot about today, is this borderless community-driven model. So bringing purpose and consciousness into VC. Public Materials cite a network of 10,000 entrepreneurs and 2,000 plus projects, regular global cohorts, and direct investment alongside investor access at Demo Day. There's a lot in there. And prior to this, you founded WebTrek GmbH, which was a customer intelligence analytics. So you've got this real operator builder lens to everything you do in venture. But I'll just bring it back to again, you have this purpose-driven, I guess, way of reshaping what the new world order looks like. And, we were just talking briefly around Silicon Valley and where all the successes come out of Silicon Valley, but you're basically flipping that on its head. So tell us a bit about your journey.
Yeah, thanks for the nice intro. Yeah, I mean, we have been, or I've been a serial entrepreneur, and I started several companies. And when starting Tsunami, I was a little bit like, where is this platform that actually pulls me through that process? Because as a founder, you want to focus on product market fit and on getting to the core of whatever you're building, and you're pretty much not so much concerned about all the administrative things, and all the things you have to do anyhow. And I was looking for that platform. I just sold my company. I wasn't allowed to, talk to my former co-founders and hire them. So that's why I had to look for new co-founders. And that was, yeah, a challenge, especially during COVID, because you couldn't meet, and I was like,
Yeah.
yeah. So what can I do? Where can I meet people? And online there are a couple of services and platforms that connect you with co-founders, but usually these platforms do not work because once you're connected, you're off somewhere else. You're not really willing to pay these platforms, and that's why I thought, okay, that business model doesn't work, and we need to reinvent it somehow, and that's what we did in the last 4 years. We built a platform where we help founders from ideation to funding, and we want to exactly do as you say. We want to export the great network of Silicon Valley, to the rest of the world in a permissionless and borderless manner. And it's a challenge, obviously, because the VC market only works with the 0.2%, smartest Ivy League people. And if you start it in a decentralized fashion, you obviously allow everybody to first join the platform, and then the selection process to who gets funded needs to be sort of on the platform. And that's what we have done in the last couple of years. We've developed it. Yeah, now we're 10K founders. Every 4 months we organize a venture-ton where remotely people come together in a 10-day hackathon, and introduce the best ideas. And this time we will have 600 founders competing for prizes of around 100K USD. And we have a lot of technology partners like EigenLayer or OpenAI is sponsoring 2,500 credits for each startup, and yeah, stuff like that. I think that's interesting.
How cool. What an amazing model that you've created. I want to first ask tsunami because tsunami takes me to tsunamis as in, the crazy ocean and tsunami.
Yes.
And is there something intentional in calling it tsunami in terms of breaking down the old world to then flip it on its head, like I said, and reshape it? So almost like knocking out what we've known always to be VC and like you say, the whatever percentage I think you said like is it point what did you say? Something like point two or something or something
Yeah,
percentage. And they
just a
just
very
said everything comes out of the Ivy League and Silicon Valley. Is that the whole what how did you come up with the
Yeah,
name?
the tsunami. I mean, it was funny that the notary said when we started, he was like, "Okay, when I see that name, I'm thinking of dying tourists," and we were like, "Okay, that was not the intention, obviously." The idea is really it's a big wave, and tsunami also contains soon am I. It's like I'm going to be something soon,
I love
and
that.
I think the American dream was always sort of something that pulled people into the US, because everybody thought, okay, if I really work hard and do something, then I will be successful, And I think this potential of being successful is in the rest of the world sometimes very difficult to achieve, because if you're born in India, for example, first of all, there's, a billion other people there that also compete for being successful. And then if you start a company in India, you you have a very, very hard time being funded because most of the investors globally do not invest in India. So, we try to identify the talent. In India, they have unbelievable technical talent and smart people. I mean, that's why a lot of, the bigger GAFA companies in the US are being run by Indians. So these people actually need another partner somewhere else in the world, and then these two people can incorporate anywhere. That's the good
Mm.
thing. And usually we recommend Delaware, we recommend, other places. But that knowledge is just missing in a lot of places, and the opportunity in general to connect with the right people is also often missing for these founders.
So how did you determine what the like borderless connection and connecting people together looked like? Like surely there had to be some sort of, assessment criteria or like it's almost like for me it's like speed dating in a way or like putting the right different and there's a real fine art and I'd love your thoughts on this around, setting up an ecosystem, but also ensuring you're connecting the right people to then also, ensure that the venture or whatever or the idea is as successful as it can be. And it requires a diverse set of people, styles, thinking. And sometimes there's the need to have some friction or healthy competitiveness in there to get the best out of people. I'd love your thoughts on, how you got to that.
That's exactly the challenge that we're facing. The sort of the biggest sort of challenge that most of the investors that we also work with see is adverse selection. They say, okay, if everybody can join your platform in the beginning, you adverse select the really good founders because they just want to be, among the really good founders. And that's the model that everybody knows, like Y Combinator, there are 40,000 applications and only 5 to 3% are being accepted into the program. But exactly that is, where I believe in today's world is a little bit a bias towards Ivy League and PhD and people who've been running some department in Google and Facebook. I think often these PhD Ivy League founders are not good entrepreneurs.
Mm.
That's at least from my experience. And I believe entrepreneurs need a little bit of different mindset. They need to be bold. They need to really be smart, obviously, but they also need to, they get a lot of no, and you just have to handle that. And obviously, it's helpful if investors love you, like the Ivy League founders. But I believe a lot of the long tail founders are underrated because they are really smart and are really hardworking, and they really want to get somewhere. And these people actually is exactly what we want to support with Tsunami. And I mean, the question is really, how do we identify the right projects?
Yeah.
For us, it's all about the right execution. So we start, for example, our venture ton with a speed dating, as you say, where the founders just for 2 or 3 minutes can talk to each other, and they can talk to 30, 40 founders per session. And then they identify the ones that they might have a second discussion with. And we also have a ranking from 1 to 10, one being like a no experience founder without any entrepreneurial experience before, and 10 being the unicorn founder with $1 billion exit. There's a ranking. And most of the founders are at rank 2, 3. If you're Ivy League student, you're already ranked 5. If you had an exit before, you had rank 6 or 7, and then if the exit is 1 or 10 or 100 or a unicorn, you climb the ladder a little bit, because we want to obviously remunerate and show people that if you're successful as an entrepreneur, then we also value that. I think
Mm,
that's important. We are not just a decentralized platform for the beginners. We also believe we want to connect successful people helping others, but also we have teams who, already had an exit and started their venture with our help, and obviously they get higher valuations on the
mm.
market. Therefore, we want to really cater for every profile.
Wow. Do you ever put like, you called it the long tail entrepreneur. Do you ever put the long tail entrepreneurs with the more experienced, do you ever play like, when it comes to getting like putting people together or business or ideas together? And that whole piece around, because I've got this whole view around there's old world experience, and I shouldn't say old world, but there's this older experience that, is so important. But then there's also this other experience where it's almost like that beginner's mindset, right? Where it's like, oh, like it's that soon am I success, that you're talking about here. Because that for
True.
me is also shaking up the model in itself as well, in terms of, well, what's possible when you put those sorts of, groups together.
Yes, we do exactly that. What we don't do is we do not recommend like certain people to work together,
No.
because I believe, this team building has to somehow be organic.
Mm,
I don't think that really works. We obviously suggest co-founders with
mm,
our AI. You start a profile, and if you're looking for, I don't know, a technical co-founder, then we will suggest technical co-founders from around the world. If helpful, then it's even in the right category. If we have people available there, we also have I think 600 advisors now on the platform. Also there, we're asking for the skills of these advisors. We're asking for the ranks. We're certifying the ranking. If it's 5 plus, then we want to see that the people actually really had an exit or, went to an Ivy League school. And these founders, we connect with advisors. And if there's a natural fit, I think it's perfect. We do also have surveys where, we prepare the founders a little bit. Like how much time do you want to invest? Is somebody expecting a salary? What's the area you want to work in? Some people have an idea, some don't. I mean, there are these, um, yeah, preliminary questions that, help you to not do a big mistakes in the very beginning. But in general, we just want to be the platform. We just want to be the LinkedIn, and we connected something like Carta, so a cap table management tool in there that you can, if you want, immediately strike a deal and say, okay, if the two of us work together on this project, then we both get 50%,
Mm.
and then we find an advisor and that advisor gets 1% if that advisor helps us 1 hour a week for 2 years, for example. And these kind of deals can be struck on the platform in a fully digital fashion. And yeah, and whenever you're ready, you can, move that. We call it DAO. It's in a digital autonomous organization, like tokenized. Um, and you can move that to any other place in the world and say, okay, now I want to become a Delaware C Corp, or now I'm ready, I want to get investment. I will go to any other place. Yeah.
Wow, you're blowing my head off. Like in terms of just this, new world order of what you're creating and just this ecosystem, and yet, and also the fact that you talked around this purpose-driven, community-driven
Yeah,
ecosystem.
don't you think that it's like one of the best thing to do in today's crazy world to connect people economically across borders? That's sort of the purpose behind it, that we say if there's somebody in Indonesia connecting with somebody in Brazil over a venture, I think that's the best thing to do. And our tsunami is a totally remote place. So we have people sitting in Turkey, in India, in UK, in Germany, all over the place. And now we have 50 ambassadors also in the biggest countries over the world. And I actually believe that, if you start a venture decentralized, it's quite easy to keep it up. I think it's hard if you have 1,000 or 2,000 people working for you and then, everybody's off working from home. That doesn't really work. But if you're a venture starting decentralized, then everybody's sort of responsible for their area. And if that doesn't work, then you can do something about it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if it's built in the philosophy of the company and the culture from day one on, I think it's super easy.
Yeah, I love that because I've always been a big believer in, everyone's accountable for their contribution to the business. And so this top-down hierarchical, kind of approach is such an old world model. And it's like you say, it's building the teams and having the ownership. So it is decentralized. For me, that is the future of, business models, team models, everything, so that you are ensuring that everyone is feeling and performing at their best,
True, true.
engaged. And I like to call it shining their brightest because when I think you have, like it's almost like bringing your true, your authentic self into it and having the ability to actually make a difference and make an impact in the world. And for me, that is reshaping what success looks like also. What
Perfect. I mean, do you work with founders and early ventures
Yeah,
or
I do. I work with a few. But it's
okay.
interesting because there's almost like the model of, obviously COVID changed quite a lot in terms of, we went from, all just working in the office to then all of a sudden, oh, okay, well now we've got to literally flip everything on its head. And I still see the struggle now of, this, and I know it sounds really basic, but even this conversation around, people in the office, I need people on the ground because I need them for client meetings, face to face versus video. And yet look at you and I now, and then I work with others that are completely remote, and it's all working really well. So there's still quite a few friction points I see, and I talk to you about this model, and I'm like, it's a purpose-driven model. It's there's a whole purpose behind it, and I think we need to see more of the purpose coming through in, businesses, startups, whatever it is, because everything else then follows. The profit, the everything follows if we've got something we're all working towards that we know is ultimately going to make a difference.
Yes, that is, I fully support that, and I mean we've been struggling a little bit with the connection of Web3 and AI in the beginning because a lot of people just don't really understand the tokenization of things behind it, and they're like, oh, that must be a scam, and that must be blah blah blah. So it wasn't easy, but I think now as we are evolving this and we're getting more and more attention from the market, people are seeing that there's actually a real value of such a platform. And you on our side you don't have to start a DAO on our side. We just pull you through that process of starting a venture. And if you already have all your co-founders, you can just skip that step of looking for additional co-founders. And then if you have all the advisors, then you skip that step too. But then there's maybe more, you might want to have a good pitch deck. And then we show you, the best platforms to do a good pitch deck at the moment with the help of AI. And, these are the things that we just want everybody to see. And yeah, I mean, you probably know like these AI tools that just build you your pitch deck, for example, when you write three sentences and you get like 10 pages perfectly designed and everything. So, we believe that founders really, if they get all the support all over the world, that they will be able to focus more on the next most important thing. And I think that's really what differentiates founders like, I don't know, Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos from, everybody else in the world. It's like, what are they going to do in the next, 12, 16, 18 hours? That's the difference. A lot of the founders are like, oh yeah, I have a meeting here, I do this and that. And I think the very successful founders are really, really focusing very hard, not on the noise, but on, what are the three things that I need to do now to get this thing off the ground? And that's sort of where we want to challenge the founders. What are the next three things that you really have to do to make this successful? And yeah, hopefully we'll have some impact.
Yeah, I absolutely love that too because you're so right. Like we get caught up in the noise, the white noise, and I've got to do this, and this, and then you even starting on a Monday, you can just destroy your week if you have walk into a Monday and you've got back-to-back meetings all week as a founder, as a leader, CEO, whatever. And so it's kind of going, what is the three in front of you? And I was actually with a client this morning on Zoom and just I was like, what are you top threes, let's go. So you're setting yourself up for those are the top three things that need to get done, whether it's in the next 24 hours or this out of this whole entire week. And they are your priorities. And so everything else, remove it, subtract it, or, use the tools that can help you be more efficient and let the tools do it for you. And it doesn't mean that they're taking over or, like I think there's this a lot of still fear and concern around, like I'm going to lose my, I guess, self in terms of in this. But this is where for me it's about what it actually can enhance you to do and what you should be focused on, especially as a founder. Don't you agree? Like, there's so much.
Yes.
And your ideas, like I like look at this picture behind me. There's all those little fingers and hands, and I'm in startup mode. I only started my business a couple of years ago, and I've constantly got all these ideas, but it's also then like, okay, pull yourself back in and go, what is in front of me right now? What do I have to focus on?
True. Yeah, true. I mean, I think that is the biggest difference. And I see myself, sometimes I'm caught up in noise work and I forgot to really do the stuff that we need to focus on. And just to really reiterate that over and over again and say, okay, you need to focus on the three things in the morning and then start with that instead of, going through your inbox. That's probably one of the biggest learnings that I had. And, if you look at the very, very successful people, it's almost impossible to get their time because they just say, sorry, no, that's not, that's not among the three things that I want to do at the moment. And that makes you in the end successful. Yeah.
So is that something that you build into your platform in terms of all the ecosystem to get the founders fit for purpose or fit for like, do you know what I mean? Fit for success. Soon am I, right? Like soon am I the success. Like I'm just thinking about this here. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
it's one of the common traps. Mm.
the format is the following. The format is we invite the founders to a 10-day remote hackathon, and the access here is you need to speak proper English, and there's no big selection process. So we invite actually 80-90% of the people that sign up on the event. Then it's a 10-day hackathon and people, mingle and meet, and some are our existing teams, some are new ones. And after 10 days, they submit a project. And they also pitched in between to the other founders, and we, get sort of a community vote on the venture. So we select probably the top 30% of these projects because it's like 300 projects in one venture ton, and we cannot look at every of these projects in depth. Then we look at the top 30%. We select roughly 20 teams that we invite to stay in our cohort. They receive the prizes. And in the cohort, it's another 3 months of program. And, during these programs, we invite guest speakers, and I would love to have you there
Yeah, I love
talking
it
about, signal
for
and
sure.
noise. And and we also, explain the marketing and business plan and product canvas and, how to pitch properly. We look at the MVPs that they produce to use the platform also to rate MVPs among the founders. I think that's an early topic that, not a lot of the founders focus on. And we just try to push them a little bit in the right direction, being
Mm,
data driven. And therefore, yes, it would be really cool to, focus on these topics more and give the founders
mm.
the opportunity to, talk to experts in that space. And in the end, after the 3 months, we have an investor demo day where, 100 plus investors are watching the best 5, 6, 7 ventures that we've selected.
It's so cool. I just love the way you're putting it together. Talk to me a little bit about this permissionless because it's really interesting you're using this language. And-
Yeah, I mean, the goal of Tsunami is to become decentralized,
mm,
and decentralization, to be honest, I like 5 years ago, I didn't really get it, to be honest. I mean, I was like, yeah, what does this whole blockchain, bring to the world? And when you hear a couple of people like Vitalik Buterin, these people, they have like great visions and they say, well, we have this sort of software layer for humanity that we built, which is permissionless and borderless and which also, I mean, has a hard time being regulated if it's really a decentralized version, I mean, Bitcoin, there's no real person working on Bitcoin at the moment. So you can imagine, the idea of the blockchain early was Uber is replacing the taxi driver, and the blockchain can replace Uber in the
mm,
end. There doesn't for like renting a car on the street with your app, you don't need a human involved. I mean, you need a human involved maybe if there is an accident or
mm,
when you have to buy new cars to put them on the street. But I mean, theoretically, these subtasks could be done by, other agencies that are governed by some sort of decentralized service. And the decentralization just means it's pure software.
mm,
Behind it is pure software. But the problem that I see with decentralization is that a lot of these ventures that start decentralized, obviously there's always a central start, there must have been some developer starting this. But they are very, very development focused, meaning they have a bad user experience, they have no
mm.
design, they have no marketing, and they have everything what's in a normal enterprise missing or is missing. And therefore, we say we take 5 years to decentralize because then we build the whole system and we can invite jury members, it can be tokenized governance and so on. And then hopefully Tsunami will be fully decentralized by 2030. That's the idea. And
I was
then,
going to ask you what
no.
your ambition is, and that's the ambition. It's such an interesting model in terms of, that decentralization and the ambition and the adoption of it as well. I think we've got decentralization. I feel like it was around a long time ago in a very different, not in like a digital world, if you like. And
Yes.
and then we went to centralized because everything had to be centralized. But then that almost, excuse me, created the blocks, the blockers, from actually getting the best out of everyone, if you like. And here we are again, but we're in this new world order where, like you say, Web3, AI, and yet, and there's also like still, a way to go with adoption around AI, adoption take up. Even in Australia, I found out the other day a stat that it blew my head off that we're this one of the slowest countries in the world to take up AI in business. And I'm like, I was in this, I was at this Women in Business and I was like, what? Like, that just blows my head off. Do you know what I mean? So, but it's great that
True.
there's people like you in the world, reshaping what it looks like. Couple of final questions for you. I'm conscious it's your morning and it's the start to Monday. You you're in Berlin, but you've moved to Mallorca. Talk to me. I'm always intrigued, right? Because from an entrepreneur VC background perspective, it's 24/7 if you're not careful. And we've just talked around this white noise and distraction before. What's your view on how do we like if you think about what you're creating in terms of a new world order, what's your view on the ability to also be able to have a life and still be super successful, still be that entrepreneur, but not like kill yourself trying to get there to that, when we talk about success. I mean, you no doubt would have had a lot of lessons and, so yeah, what's your view on that now?
Yeah, I mean, that was one reason why I moved to Mallorca because I believe if you're always, hunting the carrot pretty much, and you keep on doing that, you lose up on a lot of other things. And like I have a family, I have two beautiful children, and I remember when I was like 25, I wanted to work in a company. I wanted to be on premise, and see the people and party with them and so on. Now with my kids and my family, and I have a nice house, I have a nice finca in Mallorca, I love to be at home and it's beautiful. And I love to work there without the commute and all of this, and you can enjoy like the countryside. Um, so to me, it really depends on, what kind of life do you want to have and what stage of your life are you in? And I think it is really helpful if you can decide when and where you want to work. You just need a laptop, you need a smartphone, some headphones, and that's it, and you can build whatever you want. And to me, it's really the beauty of being an entrepreneur and being, having your own free will and having the flexibility to live whatever you want to, develop. And I, yeah, I'm very happy that I can be in Mallorca with my family and enjoy my life there, go to the beach if I want to, go kiting or whatever. And then, I go to conferences and I'll be at Token 2049 or in San Francisco next week. And yeah, that's the life that I chose and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, and I also think listening to you and I love it again, I love it because it's also you're enabling then all these fresh perspectives, right? This is where we're at our most creative because you've allowed the space. You've given yourself that space to it's not
True.
just constantly on. Last final question. If and it's like I'd love to get, an advice or a tip from you. So I'll put myself in, somebody who I'm just giving this as an example. I'm stuck in my comfort zone. I know that there's something stirring away inside of me. My soul's kind of saying to me, you know, start an idea, whatever, get into like be an entrepreneur sort of thing, or you've got something inside of you, but you are so used to that full-time job, the security of everything, but yet there's something keeping you awake at night. What would be your advice or tip?
It's hard, like 20 years ago, I would have said, hey, become an entrepreneur, that's the best life you can get. Today, I have to say you have to be you have to have a certain personality to become an entrepreneur. That's um I start sometimes my talks with the Lozada ratio, which is 5 to 1, and it says like you have to have five like positive interactions to give one negative feedback to a person to not ruin sort of your relationship with your husband, your children, and so on. And if you see that, so we can take one negative interaction per five positive as humans, pretty much, that's what is recommended. And as an entrepreneur, you pretty much get, 10 negative ones for one positive. So I think you have to be a little bit masochistic to become an entrepreneur. And it should be like a real, you shouldn't just say, okay, yeah, I'm going to try. There should be some sort of dedication that you really, okay, that you accept like life with less money and less support and so on, until you might maybe finally get there, and that only like 10% of the people probably get to a point. So I'd say if you're really dedicated and you believe that you are in it for the purpose of it, then it's the best life you can have. And if you've then achieved some sort of a standard for your life that you can live from, that's great. But I wouldn't recommend it to everybody.
No.
It's a very, very tough surrounding there, and the markets are crazy. And if you compete with these Google, I mean, I competed in the end against Google with our product. We had our analytics, which was for businesses to get like web analytics, and in the end, Google had one for free. Um, so sometimes the market just sweeps you away, without you cannot do anything about it. I mean, often you can do something about it if you rake early, but it's definitely not an easy thing. And if you look at Germany here in the thrillers and on TV, the entrepreneur is always the bad guy. That's also what you see in the society.
Mm.
People see entrepreneurs as, the potentially the bad guys, the bad ladies. And I think that's a little bit funny because we're actually paying the taxes, I guess.
Mm.
So I think there should be more, um, yeah, how would you call it? More appraisal of entrepreneurs, and I think especially Germany is quite bad at that. But I believe that Australia and the US are sort of more open and not so bureaucratic societies. But yeah, that's
I was hoping you would answer it that way in terms of just like that. It's not for everybody. There's dedication, there's commitment, there's that, the being able to be anti-fragile. And I also think that I just thought that there's also that you can be an entrepreneur where you're an entrepreneur in a business. So I think there's also that whereby, carve out what you can be doing in a business if it's not necessarily just for you. So Christian, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed our chat and I feel like there's more to come, and I wish you all the success. And I have no doubt you are going to shake it up. Well, you already are. So, how do we find out more about you? You've got a wealth of knowledge and insights. And how do we find out more about your business?
so if you're a founder or somebody who's interested in starting a venture on tsunami.io, you can join our VentureTon. Next one starts September 15th. But there are also a lot of other target groups that we're catering for investors. They can come to our investor demo day. Also, there's a link on the website. There are technology partners who want to present themselves to our 10K builders. There are lawyers, we have like legal partners who just offer 30 minute of a free call in the beginning. There are hackathon organizers, there are advisors, freelancers, and so on. So we have a lot of target groups, and we are all happy to accommodate them.
Love it. And we can find you and as in your name on through LinkedIn, yes, as well. I'll share it in the notes.
Yeah, on LinkedIn, I can also share my profile if you like.
I've got it. I've got it. I just wanted you to,
Okay.
I've got it all. So thank you. Well, have a wonderful day and a wonderful week ahead. And it's been a real joy and privilege to have a chat to you. Thank you.
Same, same. Thanks, Belinda. Have a great day and hope to have you on one of our sessions
Yeah,
soon.
absolutely. Thank you.